A question on the politics of the budget. It's from, if you could please stand up, Tashinga Musingarabwe.
Good evening, Treasurer. With $80 billion set to be cut off from health and education in the states and territories, are you starving the states so that you can effectively raise the GST and deflect blame from your government?
No.
Which is, of course, the accusation of the states. That's exactly what they're saying.
Of course. Well, they will. I mean, these sorts of things happen all the time.
The question that they're asking is, how are we going to replace the missing $80 billion?
Well, I would argue that the $80 billion was never funded at any rate. And why? Just to clarify what the $80 billion is. Julia Gillard and Kevin Rudd signed deals with the states, and they literally threw money at the states in relation to hospitals and schools. In the case of Gonski, they pulled the previous government pulled $1.2 billion out just before the election. So there was no Gonski money at all for Queensland, Western Australia or the Northern Territory. So after the election, we said, look, it's unfair. We committed to 4 years of Gonski. We're putting an extra $1.2 billion in, which actually means we've put more money into Gonski than Labor ever did.
I'm just going to go let me go to what the questioner is asking, though, and that is whether the states will end up being forced into a position where they have to agitate to raise the GST. That's what everyone wants to know.
Well, that is a matter for them because they receive every dollar from the GST. They receive every dollar from the GST. But what happens is, at the moment, the states run the hospitals, the states run the schools. We don't run one hospital, we don't run one school. We run one hospital in Tasmania, but we don't run the system. And all we're doing is we're going back to the same taxpayer for additional money. We don't run them, but we're taxing them and then giving it straight to the states. So the fundamental question is, if you run an area of government, shouldn't you raise the money to pay for that area of government?
Okay.
And having said that,
all right, yes.
having said that, we are continuing to increase above inflation funding for hospitals and schools as far as you can see. So we continue to increase the funding for schools and hospitals off an even stronger base than what the previous Labor government was
not according to the states, who say that they're going to be down by more than $1 billion starting from July. July 1.
Well, that's just not right.
That is their argument.
Yeah,
can I just argue one quick question, one quick follow-up, and that is, why was such a fundamental shift in state-federal relations not forecast or even talked about in your budget speech?
Budget speech?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I wish I had an hour to give the budget speech.
That is the thing that's causing you most grief, and you didn't even mention it in the budget speech.
I'm not sure that it is the thing giving us the most grief. I think there's a few other things in the community. But look, this is something that we have to resolve. Colin Barnett was right. This is not an emergency. We can sit down and work this through. We have a process that we've put in place with a review of the Federation and a review of taxation arrangements, and whatever comes out of it, we are taking to the Australian people at the next election.
Okay, I'm going to move on from that issue. I've got a question from Len Joyce. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep, go ahead, then.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting it so quick. The Australian economy has been ruined over the last 5 years, 5 or 6 years, by profligacy. Have I said that right? Leaving us with $1 billion interest bill a month. Now, the continual stupidity of the opposition parties in Parliament and what they're saying and what they're going to stop, what option can you take? We don't want to resort to hope or divine intervention. What can we do to get through that? How are you going to face that?
You mean how are you going to face opposition in the Senate? Yep. All right, go ahead.
Well, I think we've got to win the political argument. That's a starting point. Now, if you're asking me, I mean, I am frustrated at the behaviour of the opposition. I suppose they'd say they were frustrated at us when we're in opposition. But Labor is now opposing $5 billion of the savings and cuts that they took to the last election, they're now opposing and blocking in the Senate. $5 billion of their own cuts.
It's not only, not only Labor, is it, that's going to be blocking a lot of these initiatives.
Well, that's true. $15 billion
Labor, the Greens,
of
and
initiatives that we were upfront with the Australian people about before the last election to reduce government expenditure, like getting rid of the school kids bonus, which is hard, but we were upfront. Tony Abbott said it in the Parliament, we've got to get rid of this because it's funded by the mining tax, we can't afford it. Labor is opposing that. Labor have now said they're opposing $18.5 billion of new saving initiatives. All it does is make the job much harder in the future and the pain much greater in the future.
So quick.